see if it's working here. Oops. Great. All right. Hi, everybody. I'm Michael Zimbalist from the New York Times. And this is not so much a presentation as it is a call to arms. It's a call to arms for all of us in media to make mobile advertising all that it can be and to not repeat many of the same mistakes that I think we made in the early days of the web, that we'd all acknowledge that we made in the early days of the web. And I got the inspiration for this presentation about 2.5 months ago on a weekend when my wife and I were going to Home Depot. And we got to the parking lot at Home Depot and there wasn't a spot to be found. And so we started to do what people will do. And we kind of slowly followed this woman as she came out with her bags and kind of sidled up carefully next to her as she got into her car. And she turned on her car and she sat and sat and sat. And you know this phenomenon. It's like the watch pot that never boils. It's the car that idles in the spot that you want that will never, ever move. And so as we sat there and got increasingly frustrated over this situation, my wife leaned out. She was driving. She leaned out through her window, and she goes, "Oh, she's doing her phone. She's doing her phone," right? So 5 years ago, 6 years ago, that would have been a non sequitur. It would have made no sense whatsoever. But she's doing her phone. We all know what that means. We all find ourselves doing our phone probably in a really similar situation. And so it occurred to me at that point that there's all kinds of habits that we're developing around mobile, and that these habits are very unique and very distinct. And we don't really understand even the whole range of habits that we're developing yet. And the reason habits are particularly important is that habits have always been a really good way to start to understand media, because habits become ritualized. And when we form rituals around media or media behaviors, those rituals have emotions attached to them. And the emotions, when we feel emotions for a media property, a media brand, or a media behavior, there's a wide body of advertising research that has shown that the advertising that makes its way into those media properties or media habits or media shows or behaviors, the advertising in those vehicles that we're emotionally attached to performs much better. It performs much better in terms of favorability, in terms of intent to purchase, in terms of all the advertising metrics. You look at the segments of people who are emotionally attached to it, they do better. So if we can begin to characterize the mobile behaviors that are taking shape, we can begin to understand all the different advertising opportunities and develop for them. So mobile is fostering all these new kinds of behaviors. And so what kind of behaviors are they? So let's start with this guy, right? So this guy, what's this guy doing? He's doing his phone. Actually, this guy, so this sort of reminds me of Adam's presentation this morning. Like this guy might be encroaching upon a bear, unbeknown to him right now. But what's interesting about the guy and the bear and this guy is what are they doing on their phone at that moment, right? So this he could be doing anything from like the more prosaic looking at Google Maps to find his way to where he's going to actually watching the last 5 minutes of the Good Wife on Amazon that he missed last night, to reading the last section of the Putin op-ed that we ran in the Times that went viral a month or so back. He could be doing any of these things. There's never been a medium before that is portable, personal, and completely capable of delivering any kind of programming whatsoever. And that's the first thing that I think is really unique and that we need to take into account to develop mobile advertising to all it is, which is mobile is not a channel. Mobile is not a channel. We developed the web as if it was a channel. It was a closed loop. It was like you're on the web, and when you're on the web, you're on the web, right? And that's it. Mobile is a disruptor of media behaviors. It's not a channel. Here's a totally different mobile behavior, right? If you have kids this age, you'll know that this is they never go anywhere unequipped with their devices, and their devices find their way into everything they do at that moment. So these kids, this is actually a shot of a bunch of kids watching the Super Bowl last year. And you can see that some of them are engaged with the show by taking a picture of it. Some of them appear to be disengaged from the show, doing whatever they might be doing. But the one thing that is unique here is that if we treat mobile like a channel, we'd be advertising, we'd be addressing the wrong media budgets, right? This is a TV occasion. This is exactly what Adam's talking about with Twitter. Twitter's not going out and saying, what's your mobile budget? They're saying, what's your TV budget? Because TV and mobile are intersecting in a way that make the TV budget the proper addressable budget in these kinds of circumstances. So the other thing I'll tell you about these kids watching the Super Bowl is as the Super Bowl comes around this year, they're gonna think about this moment, and they're gonna anticipate it with that same emotion that you anticipate maybe if you like me, read the New Yorker, and every Monday when I go home, I'm looking forward to the New Yorker, and if it doesn't come for some reason that week, I'm like crestfallen, right? So they're gonna be anticipating this year's Super Bowl, not just as a game, but as this social occasion where they're gonna be thinking about what they're gonna be doing simultaneously and synchronously on their mobile devices. And we need to get underneath this with some good research. Here's a completely different mobile moment. Completely different. Totally intimate. Didn't exist before 4 years ago because there were no iPads, right? So what do you think she's doing? I figured it was watching TV, right? But then somebody told me, no. She's Skyping with her boyfriend. You know, there's like, it could be anything. That's the thing. It could be anything. Anything in this newfound time, this new mobile moment. And we need to get underneath it and understand it. And then you know, something like this, which is just found time, which you know, it could be anything. Again, it could be getting ready for your next meeting, or watching a show, or catching a sports highlight, or reading, you know, or kind of a substitute for reading a magazine or a book or a newspaper like you might have seen, right? So that's my point. We won't understand, and we will never be able to realize the full potential of mobile advertising until we can start to characterize the full suite of emerging mobile behaviors. And right now, mobile as a percentage of digital is about a quarter of all media spend in 2014, and mobile is projected to be about 13 billion of that. And mobile is already beginning to break down a little bit like the web. And mobile is already maybe beginning to cannibalize some of the web spend. There's some indication that maybe it is, maybe it isn't. And I think we need to get ahead of this and take a look at what we're doing right now in mobile. So mobile search is about half of the mobile spend. It's already 95% captured by Google. I'm not going to talk about that. It's not addressable as far as we're concerned at the New York Times. We're talking about the display mobile ad market, right? So the display mobile ad market is in an interesting position. We saw some really great stuff about coming from Yext and then at Walmart. So sort of the highly precise, targeted mobile ad impression, right? We're spending a lot of time on that. It's a really interesting tactic. It can look incredibly well. It can be disruptive to all sorts of channels. It's unquestionably a very real, big mobile opportunity. And yet, only one-third of mobile time is spent outside of the home on a smartphone, and only 20% of mobile time is spent outside of the home on a tablet. So look at this whole constellation of mobile opportunities we're missing if all we think about is this highly precise e-commerce kind of behavior in store, right? Could you imagine, like, you know, 3 more steps to the kitchen? Wow, that was like really cool. Like, how did they know? You know, you don't need that kind of targeting for 80% of the mobile use cases. Okay. Another tactic, the tactics that we see often coming into the office is like app downloads, right? You know, the campaign is all about, you know, cost per download and like downloading things. This is precisely where we don't want to go all that quickly. This is exactly what we did on the web. This is mobile as an isolated channel being judged by the performance within the channel, right? It's a closed loop. It completely disregards the fact that mobile is this connector of media behaviors, connector of media occasions, and disruptor of channel-based mobile behavior, right? If we go down this path, we're going to end up with a bunch of ads that look like this, right? Like, remember these ads from Web 1.0? I love these ads. Like, what do you think happens if you click that little X? Do you think the banner disappears? Remember, this was like best practices for banner design. Do you remember these things, right? And already, when you start to look at some of the mobile ads that are coming up, it's like, uh-oh, wait, they look a little bit like this. Actually, they look a little bit more like that. But you know, we're going down the same path. What we're trying to do is like induce a click and then see what happens within the mobile environment. let's not treat mobile like the web, only smaller. And that's why I say this is a call to arms, because I think we need to intercede, because the gravity of just treating mobile like another channel, I mean, it's like, okay, think about how all these other media have emerged, like television. Like, okay, it's just like our radio plays. We'll put them on TV. We'll just put a camera in front of the person. Or like cable was just like network, only we'll just move it over there. Or the web was a little bit like print. I get it. It's like a page, and there's edit, and there's advertising, right? So mobile, it's like, oh, it's just another platform, another channel. No, it's completely different. If we treat mobile like the web, only smaller, we are going to get this phenomenon where the mobile spend starts to cannibalize the desktop spend. If we treat mobile as a horizontal that's disrupting all media behaviors and characterize all these different habits that are arising, we can address all these different budgets, and not just the internet budget. But if we find a TV use case, we can get the TV budgets. And if we find retail, we get the retail promotions budgets, which are bigger than all the measured media budgets to begin with. I don't even have a number for that. So the key to doing this, which would create that kind of situation, which is what we all want and which is what we all are looking for, the key to doing this will be to characterize and do some real ethnographies to get underneath this full range of mobile behaviors and begin to architect our own products so that they match those behaviors, and then bring advertising into those experiences. So what do we know so far about the way mobile is being used? Well, one thing we know for sure, we've heard it over and over again, we've seen it, is that there's this two-screen behavior with mobile devices and television, right? 77% of the time that we're using a TV, we're using another device, and half the time those are smartphones, right? So even within this, we can start to characterize all the different kinds of behaviors that are happening synchronously between the mobile device and the television set, right? So there's like these tightly coupled experiences, like screen sharing, like you do with Chromecast or Apple TV, or even somebody mentioned before, you can be so tightly coupled that your mobile is just a remote for your TV, right? But then there's these sort of like loosely coupled experiences that we're all doing, like these sort of second screen experiences. And this is something where I think there's great promise for us to train users to do, right? So we're programming second screen experiences at the times to go alongside the Oscars, the Super Bowl, the State of the Union address, capitalizing on that. And then you've got, folks like Z-Box that are, when you're tuning into the show, they're saying, turn this on for your second screen experience. So we can really capitalize on this kind of behavior, induce and train users to be thinking there is simultaneous programming as I watch this, and then develop ad experiences to go along with that. Many times, though, the behavior is way, way more complex than that. I just want to show this chart that comes from Symphony Advanced Media. A lot of people in the room probably know Charlie Buckwalter. This is Charlie's new company, Symphony Advanced Media. And what they're developing is a passive people meter on the smartphone that listens to the TV and then keeps track of what's going on in the smartphone. And I just want to show this for 1 second. This is kind of a little bit complicated. So this is one person in watching TVs. He or she is watching The Price is Right over here, you see? So TV is going on concurrently for this whole bit of time here. And the bit of time involved is only 3 minutes. Each one of these is a timestamp. So in 3 minutes, this person watching The Price is Right does 17 different actions on their phone. So it's a very complex, very heterogeneous kind of ecosystem. But then you can drill into that even more, and you can say, like, okay, of the apps that were used in those 17 occasions over 3 minutes, what apps were they? And about half those apps are social apps. So this sort of concurrent social TV viewing is definitely a real phenomenon to be unpacked and for us to develop ads around. Retail. So there's been a lot of discussion on retail. The last 2 sessions were on retail. I won't go through it too much. But like out of home, in store, even there, it's a whole heterogeneous set of behaviors, right? So there's people who are doing price comparison right in the store. This one's particularly interesting, that right there in the store, people are making purchases as well. So even within a fairly constrained environment, where shopping is the main thing, the types of activities going on are fairly heterogeneous and diverse. This is a study from Google on multi-screen behavior and looking at it specifically in e-commerce, and it makes a really important point, which is that most people, 90% of people, report that they start an activity on one device and finish it on another. So I think everybody has probably done that, whether it's as simple as starting an email on your phone, saving it to your drafts, getting to your desktop and saving it, or starting a presentation on Evernote on your phone and then getting to your desk and picking it up again and finishing it, right? So this idea that consumers are moving between devices effortlessly is at the heart of these kinds of behaviors. And we talked about it a bunch today, that like designing for a multi-screen world is about designing to put the consumer at the center of the experiences and then building experiences around them that are synchronous with the kinds of actions that they're taking across these multi-screens. And something that I started to notice about 18 months ago in the agency world is the appearance of this new discipline called the experience architect. So they say, we'll bring in our experience architect for you if they're starting on a new account. And the experience architect is doing that. It's saying, how can we architect experiences for a multi-screen world where the consumer is at the center and expecting service and reliability and personalization across all these different devices? And in the user experience design world, they've started to already define some different types of multi-screen experience designs. So coherence, for example, is a design philosophy that's used by, say, Evernote and Facebook, where no matter what device you're on, your experience is going to be coherent. You may not have all of the functionality available to you if you're on a mobile phone as you do on a big screen, but you know that several swipes in, all that experience will be there. Evernote is designed that way too. So that's one way of architecting experiences. Another way is synchronization, which is much more like the Netflix or Amazon Kindle approach, where your experience is synchronized device to device. So you pick it up right on the same page you left it off, even though you're moving from one screen to another. And screen sharing is like the Apple TV Chromecast. So there's a whole range of things. So as we begin to design these mobile experiences that match consumers' behaviors, we can architect them in well-defined and well-designed ways. And then build ad experiences that match those. And that's what we have to do if we're going to realize the full potential of mobile advertising. And I thought it might be like an interesting thought starter to just put out a few different ways that we might start to characterize these different mobile behaviors in terms of a couple of different sort of binary kinds of ideas. So are they in-home or out-of-home? Are they active or passive? Or are they in motion or fixed, okay? And then go back and look at some of these behaviors and just try to bucket them this way and see which kinds of ad budgets should we address, right? So here for the retail occasion, you're out of home, very precisely known where you're out of home. You're active and you're moving around, and so this is a retail promotions kind of idea. This one we talked about. This is clearly a TV budget interrupter, right? This could be print or out of home, this kind of occasion. But here's the thing. So it's disruptive. It's what the theme of this conference is about. This is all about change because the entire world we live in is organized by channel and organized and siloed by channel. So the way we report media spend is all channelized and siloed, right? So we report spending by outdoor radio, television, newspapers, magazines, internet. But here we are in the valley, right? And people think about lock-in. Like, how are we really locked into this? What if we imagined that we reported it differently? I was talking to Dan Salmon, who's an analyst at Bank of Montreal, about this, and he said he's actually done some work on it, and he was kind enough to share it with me. What if we talked about ad spending by portability? So Dan went through and cut all the ad spend data, not by channel, but by whether it was portable media or non-portable media. Okay, so can you imagine walking into a CMO and saying, what's your portability spend going to be relative to your fixed spend, right? And it's kind of interesting, you know, if you go into this, you can start to see this is portable out of home. This is a portable device. This is non-portable home or office device, and this is non-portable out-of-home office device. So most of the radio spend is clustered in here, which has been relatively flat. There is some radio spend in these other categories. Print is the original portable medium. So portability spend is on the rise here. And it's just a different way. We don't have to be locked into this channel-based thinking, but to break out of the channel-based thinking is going to be extremely hard and extremely difficult. It's disruptive. It puts the onus on all of us to become change agents. And there's silos in the way organizations are laid out, right? So this is the org chart of Sterling Cooper right after Putnam, Powell, and Lowe bought them. But you can see that they, there's a media department, there's a print department, et cetera, and their print department did some great work for Facebook. You might have seen this. Tough crowd here, but the Facebook ad is useful. Could you imagine if Facebook was a single channel property, if it didn't break out and suddenly realize we're a multi-channel property and we have to have a mobile experience at the center of it all? This is what it would look like, a print ad for Facebook as a channel-based behavior where you can only do it sitting at your desk, right? But it all started really because we consumed in silos. I mean, we were siloed as media consumers by the time of day, the place we were in, and the occasion we were. But mobile completely breaks that apart. So it's a disruptor of media behavior. It's not a channel in its own right. So that's really the key takeaway. I had a couple of concluding moments, but I see that we're ready for the next presentation. So let me just say that this could be our wedge to break through this TV-first mentality. We've got to move beyond channel-based thinking. Let's build the case through good ethnographic research for attacking these offline budgets and innovate broadly. Thank you.